It is 710 ESPN Seattle NFL Draft Special. Bob Stelton here with Danny O'Neil and, of course, Dave Wyman. And look at who we have sitting here. The one, the only, Russell Wilson is sitting here right now. How are you, man?
Great. I can't complain. Excited about the draft tonight. It's a special night, as always. And we got 2 picks in the first round, and we'll see what happens.
Well, before we get into the picks and all of that, let's talk about what you just went through. And man, I watched that video of you. And I'm thinking, there's no way this guy's sleeping when the deal's not done. You couldn't have looked more relaxed. Like it looked like your agent called and woke you up and said, "Hey, the deal's done." And you're like, "Cool." How relaxed were you? Could you have been that relaxed when you've got that much on the line, when it's all kind of hanging in the balance with a deadline?
Yeah, I think that we were heavily involved in the conversation. Mark and myself and John and Pete and Matt Thomas, and we had a lot of discussions. Like I said, I wanted to be in Seattle. I told Mark, we want to be in Seattle, and that's the goal. And I want to be like one of those guys like Derek Jeter and Kobe Bryant's the world, where they stay there for a long time. And obviously professional sports changes, but that's what I always envisioned myself to do. And so that would be the hope and goal. And so sure enough, it worked out. And I think sometimes you need to take a deep breath and just realize that, it's going to work out no matter what happens.
You're just calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah,
no big deal.
Yeah, you put the hay's in the barn. Now it's time to just keep working. And I think that was my mentality. I've done as much as I can do right now so far, and there's more to do coming up this year and the years to come. So I think you're pretty clear on where you are and where you stand and what you think and how to go after things.
I got to believe it's a huge relief for you to not have to worry about that anymore. Now it's just football.
Yeah, the first time I was able to fortunately go through the contract situation in 2015. Yeah. It was a blessing for sure, but it was a long process. I mean, it literally took me from end of the season that year all the way to training camp. I don't know, July 31st or whenever it was, and it took me all the way to that time, literally about 10 minutes before, and so I think this time, it's one of those things that I think that from an understanding of where we felt like, as a player that in my career so far, and then also where I'm headed and where I want to go, I think that we wanted to keep it very simple and I want to focus on football, and I didn't want to focus on all the other things. I wanted to be able to come here and if it wasn't going to happen, it wasn't going to happen. I was just going to keep my head down and keep working like I always try to do, and if it was, then same thing. The situation doesn't change in terms of my mentality. And so I think that just let's get the business part out the way so we can just focus on what we need to do, and that's win another championship.
Yeah, you said you're excited for the draft today. In 2012, me and Tony Ventrella were the first guys to interview you. I'll never forget.
Right. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was the third round, and how exciting was that day? Because, you don't realize it at the time. You're a young person. I think about when I got drafted here. I mean, it changed my whole life. It changed who I became, who my kids are, even. So, you think back on that. That's it's pretty cool. You have time to reflect on that?
Yeah, it was awesome. I was in D.C. at the time, and, I was at my uncle's house and everything else, and but he was a lawyer, so his house phone kept ringing, and and we were in the basement. And the house phone kept ringing, and we had this old white phone on the wall, and my cell phone had no service. Oh crap, no service. Yeah. So and so the draft's going on. First round goes by, second round, third round, and everything else, and it's happening, and the phone keeps ringing, and I'm like, okay, I'm picking up this big white phone, long cord, old school phone. It's from the early '80s, and I pick up the phone. And hey, is this Mr. Wilson? Yeah, this is Mr. Wilson. Yeah, is Ben there? That's my uncle. He's a lawyer. And I was like, is Ben there? I'm like, yes, he's here, but he's not available.
Yeah. We need to keep this line open.
So
here.
That would happen, like over and over again. At one point, they kept calling. The person called 3 times, different people, but this one person called 3 times. And kind of in a row, because I said, sorry, he's not available. Oh. And sure enough, so the third time I was like, listen, he's not available. Don't call back. Bye. and then sure enough, I finally got like 1 bar of service, and my phone starts ringing. And we're watching the draft, it's live, and we're watching the draft, and John Gruden's up there talking, and all the other analysts and everything else, and sure enough, it was a Bellevue, Seattle area code. And picked up the phone and knew it was the place. So, yeah, it was an exciting time. And the fortunate thing for me, I had been drafted before in baseball, so I kind of experienced the emotion of it all. And I was kind of prepared mentally and emotionally for it. And like I said, for me, it was, I wanted to make the 31 other teams regret it, and that was my mentality, So just give me the chance, and I just wanted the ball in my hands and have a chance to do it. And but the thing that the biggest knock was on me was obviously that was short, and so, I just wanted to go. I just wanted to go prove to myself that I could do it. Prove everybody else wrong. I guess that's part of it, but really more so than anything else, I had something to prove to myself, that I could go be great and try to do everything I wanted to do.
When you look at what's happened since then, you played 7 seasons in the NFL since that draft. What trait do you think has allowed you to be as successful as you've been as a quarterback? Do you think about how far you've come since being a third-round pick?
Yeah, that's definitely number one thing is the mind. To be able to mentally be tough, to be able to mentally go through highs and lows, to be able to process situations. I think also to be able to be super competitive when the game's on the line and not fear situations. I look forward to them. I think some people look forward to situations, some people fear them. For me, I've been fortunate to have that mentality, and so just really thinking at a high level and trying to be competitive as possible. No matter if it's a game, if it's practice, no matter what the situation, no matter if we're down 17, it's the fourth quarter, we got to come back and win the game, or if it's all the way to we're up and it's the Super Bowl that we won, and it's hey, we're up by however much we're up by. Hey, man's not over yet. So I think that's the mentality you have to have, and I think you're born with it. I think you work at it. My mental coach and I, Trevor Moad, we constantly talking. Constantly trying to find every edge mentally. Obviously the physical part of the game, being able to move and throw and all that kind of stuff is key and everything else. But I think the best players in this game, especially the quarterback position, are their mind separates everything else. And I think their ability to be clutch, the ability to be tough, the ability to look forward to tough moments. I think the ability to weather the storm. I think that's the key. And I think that's the thing I'm always trying to enhance is my mind.
You mentioned the looking forward to big moments. You're also pretty even keel. Mm-hmm. There's not this, oh my gosh, I'm in the zone, rah type of sense. You seem more neutral. Have you always been that way as a player?
Yeah, I think that's a great word. I think the neutral mind is important. I think that I am definitely a very positive guy. Don't get me wrong, but the thing with being overly positive is. You may be down, in the NFC Championship game, and the game may not be going well. You may have thrown, unfortunately, a couple picks here, a few picks, and maybe 4. And
I was gonna say,
yeah, no, more 4. Than 2 times 2. And the reality is that, what's the truth? Hey, the truth is we're down 16-0, man. That's the truth. We got. There's time on the clock, and so that mentality of being neutral and staying calm and not wavering. I think also, too, through the successes that you have and everything else, trying to remain neutral in terms of your mentality, too. I think, the one thing I do know is that negativity doesn't work. It doesn't work. If anything, it works in the opposite direction. And I think that what I do believe is I think the greatest athletes in the world, they're neutral-minded. They don't waver too often. And I think that's where I really want to be every day.
I saw someone, they compared this to me. Damian Lillard shot the other night.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how you saw that the other night. You watched Tiger the other night.
Yeah.
You watched the success of Tiger, the other day. You watch, obviously the success of Dame the other night, and just the whole series, to be honest with you, because, Russell Wilson was one of my favorite players to watch, too, as well. And just watching Dame be so competitive, shot in, shot, back-to-back shots and just not wavering. And the Blazers just as a team, they were very neutral. They just kept believing. They kept doing their thing. And obviously hits the game winner and everything else and walks off. But I think that you see the fire in a person's eyes, and they don't have to do too much to present who they really are. I think that was the cool thing about Dame. I think Tiger and all the great things he's done in his career, to some of the tough moments he's had over the past 10 years, and then to think about what he looked like the other day and the fire in his eyes and the neutrality that he had in his mind. I remember, I think it was shot hole 16 the other day in the Masters, and I mean, he hits this ball, 6 inches from the hole, almost a hole in one, and just, you could see him in the background and everything else, and the look in his eyes is real. and just staying focused on the task. I think if you want to win a lot of games, you got to stay focused on the task. You got to stay focused on the process. You got to stay focused on what the truth is and what you're doing well, what can we get better at, and just keep chugging along. And I think that's the key.
What's it like hearing your name come up as the standard for every quarterback that is viewed as undersized, right? Since you've come into the league, no matter whether it's Johnny Manziel or Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray this year, your name comes up as an example of, well, he's a lot like Russell, or he's no Russell because he's built slider. Yeah. Is that a compliment, or do you get tired of hearing about undersized quarterbacks? Because you take it both ways.
I think it's a great thing. I think the thing is, it's a great thing because the guys before me helped me. I think about obviously Drew Brees as of late, and just his ability to just win games and win a Super Bowl and just do different things, and his character and just how he works, and just he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and his height doesn't define his skill set. I think for me, that's the guy I always kind of looked up to and watched a lot of film with, and I know Drew really well now and stuff like that. So our kids go to the same school, and they play in the same football league sometimes, and just they're around each other a lot and stuff. So I just being thinking that way. I think also too, guys like Michael Vick. When I was coming up, that was the quarterback that was just so athletic, could make all the plays and everything else. You think about Doug Flutie's of old, the past time, and just the things that he did. He was one of the first ones. There were so many other guys. Steve Young, really loved watching Steve Young growing. I had a Steve Young number 8 jersey. I was a fair weather fan growing up watching football. I only watched the good teams,
the winners.
Well, great teams they usually have the best players. So I just watched what I loved watching. I liked Brett Favre and the Packers at one point. I even liked Tom Brady and the Patriots when I was coming up. I liked the Cowboys at one point. I liked the 49ers. I can't do that, but so I just loved watching great players, great athletes, great quarterbacks play in their mind. But I think that you really have seen the jump over the past years. Obviously, I think winning a Super Bowl, being smaller and everything else, I think helps. For Drew, for myself, and now for the guys to come. And you see guys like Baker, you see Kyler Murray, and different other guys as well. The game's changed. The perspective has changed. I would say the perspective of how to play. And the one thing you have to always remember, and I always said this, during some of my draft interviews, is that they always ask me, why do you think you can play? In the NFL. And the first thing I would say is, well, listen, I've played in the West Coast offense at NC State. I've transferred, I was at Wisconsin for 6 months. I played behind the biggest offensive line in football, in college football, the third biggest offensive line in all of football. I had Ricky Wagner as my left tackle. I had Travis Frederick as my left guard, who now plays center. I had Peter Kahns, who was a second round pick for the Atlanta Falcons. I had Zeitler as the right guard. I mean, I played behind Oglesby. I had Havenstein as well come in as a sixth offensive lineman. He came in and played tackle. So I played behind big guys at Wisconsin. That's one of the reasons why I went there, so I could prove that, hey, even though I'm shorter, I can play. It doesn't, And so, anyways, I think that the reality is, and I always said this, is the reality is that I played this way my whole life. This is what I know. It's like
you're used to being short.
Yeah, I'm used to being shorter than most. Sorry.
Well, listen, to me, it's a rubber band effect. Like Doug Baldwin, the undersized players that are able to do it, to me, I'm more impressed by. Yeah. Just because, anybody can do it if you're size. The other thing is, I played linebacker, but you remember Sam Mills? He was a linebacker. Yeah. He was like 5'8" or 5'9". He was under everybody.
Yeah, leverage.
Yeah, leverage. So it's all about that. But I just, by the way, I wanted to ask you a non-football question. How's our favorite Stanford basketball player doing?
Anna, she's doing great. She had a great postseason and everything else. Great season. They went to the Elite Eight. Unfortunately, lost. Yeah. Tough game to Notre Dame, but yeah, I mean, she's doing great. She's loving school. I mean, she's just killing school, and she's a really amazing photographer and filmographer, and is doing amazing in that. Cool. And so,
she a communication major?
No, she's studying a lot of film stuff. So she's pretty bright. She's going to be special in that area. So
cool. Good to hear it.
Yeah, for sure.
Somebody compared Damon that I was talking with on Twitter. Damian Lillard's shot to your pass in the 2014 NFC Championship game. Mm-hmm. Tie score, kind of ruthlessly delivered from distance. When you think back to that game, what jumps out to you about that?
That moment or the game?
The game. That NFC Championship game against the Packers.
I always compare it to life. no matter what you're going through, no matter even the big moments and the tough low moments. I think that life's going to have its ebbs and flows. It's going to have its highs, and it's going to have its lows. And how you respond to things, I think, really test the character of the individual. I think it also tests the character of the group, of the culture. I think, and I think that you learn a lot through those moments. I think you learn a lot about who you are and who you can become in those moments, and where you are internally too as well. So, I think that the best players in the world, they don't waver in those moments. I think obviously seeing Dame, make the big shot from far away, and I've always admired his game, because I've always said I think he's top 3 point guard arguably in the game, because if they can continue to find ways to surround him and they just find ways to win. I mean, there's nobody that can do arguably what he can do on the court. He's tough, great defense, great. Obviously he can handle the ball well. He's clutch. He believes in himself. Just he makes everyone else better. So, I think in that terms of that game in particular, I think that I think it's a testament to life in that you go through tough moments and still overcome. So that's how I view it.
How close are you guys to getting back to that point you were at when you earn a berth to the Super Bowl? Like, when you think about your team, you're obviously about ready to start preparing for a new season. How close are you guys to that level?
Well, I think that we were way further ahead than what most people thought we would be last year. I really compare this, like I said, to you guys 100 times. 2012, last year when I came in as a rookie really felt like last year. So I think that the comparables of those, type of teams and everything else is a good comparable. I think, for us, what we need to do is, one, obviously play great defense. I think we scored a lot of touchdowns last year, throwing the ball and running it. Keep that level of offense up. Execute. Be really sharp, be explosive, play fast, move, make things happen. And I think ultimately what it really comes down to is there's always moments in a game, right? And this is where, as you continue to have that more and more experience as a team, you really figure out these moments of communication and execution. Because you win games based off of great communication and execution. You also can lose games off of bad communication and bad execution. That's the difference. That's the fine, detailed line between winning and losing. And so if we can really tune that in and just turn that volume up in terms of those two categories, I think we got a great chance to do something really special.
Every once in a while something happens where I really miss having teammates and being part of a team. And the other day when I saw the video of Tyler Lockett and DJ Fluker, it made, you only give a hard time to the people you really love.
Oh,
right?
For sure. It was great, man. It's funny, we were in an offensive meeting. They throw that on the video. It was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen.
DJ Fluker. He couldn't even keep a straight face.
He comes out of the sheets.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. But yeah, those moments, that brings people together. It's a lot of fun. We're celebrating one another as a team. Just doing things together and just trying to be as great as possible.
Seems like a good team.
Yeah, for sure.
Good group of guys.
When the contract thing is happening, you're not signed yet, but all the rumors are out there.
Yeah.
Are you undercover? Are you just, I'm not listening to any of it? Or are you hearing, hey, they're saying this? Are you reading your social media? Because so many rumors are swirling and people are taking sides. And it's crazy how it's a snowball effect. Mm-hmm. What do you do in that situation? Do you say, all right, I'm shutting it all off and my agent will call me when it's done? Or, hey, I'm paying attention to what's being said?
No, I don't pay attention to the media aspect of it. I know what's going on. I can, you hear about it or whatever, your friends will tell you, whatever that may be. But I think more than anything else, it's really staying focused on the task. Like, the task is, listen, I love it here. I think that it's been great 7 years. Played at a high level, and in my opinion, I feel like I've gotten better and better every year. Just let's stay on that course mentally and physically, and just continue to do that. And so, like I said, just let the course happen. And, it's going to happen how it's going to happen. I really believe that. Now all the things I've gone through in my life, things happen, and then you just continue to stay the course. And I think that, so for me, I talk to Mark every day, no matter what happens. Every morning I'm talking to him 6 a.m. on the way here. He's on the East Coast, so we call each other and just talk. And then, but in terms of this process, I think we have that constant communication of what you're thinking, whatever. just staying, calm and knowing where we're at in our mentality and everything else, and knowing that we want to get something great done here and be here for a long time. So, I think you can get it. You have to listen. I'll tell you this: at this level, in terms of playing the quarterback position, in terms of high level sports, in terms of elite athletes or whatever it is, I'll tell you this: if you pay attention to all that stuff, it will kill you. It will. It really will. It'll make you. You just have to, know who you are, know what you're about, and just stay focused on that. And I think that, and that's what. No offense. I think that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to write stuff. It makes it exciting, and it makes it interesting. And then I think you just have to know what your truth is and where you want to go.
Now, what was the craziest thing you heard? I mean, everybody had you in a Giants uniform, by the way. That's where you were going to be. But, I mean, was there anything you heard where you just shook your head and said, what? Where did that come from?
I don't know. I mean, I guess all of it, I don't know. I think that, people saying I didn't want to be in Seattle was probably the craziest thing. I think, I've always wanted to be in Seattle. It's, we know where our kids are going to school. We know all that stuff. So I think that was probably just the thing. It's like, okay, this is part of it. Yeah. But it's I guess it's, and then, to be honest with you, that was 3 months of it. Imagine if we took it all the way to the end of July, or if it didn't work out, then how long it would have gone, if we didn't set the deadline, if it just could have kept going and kept going. So that's the part that gets kind of, that's where it gets heavy for everyone involved, for the fans, for people, just not only for our family, but just more for everyone else really too. So, we wanted to figure it out and make it right and let's do something great.
What was, I think, the most awesome thing I saw you do in the offseason was when you went on the show and threw footballs at the Jell-O and the milkshakes. And what show was that?
That's James Corden's show.
Yeah.
That was James Corden's show. That was funny.
Yeah, so but
that was a good time.
At least from my perspective. But what was the most awesome thing you did?
We did some cool things this offseason. I would say the James Corden show was great. We did the drive-through. Throwing of food and stuff like that. That was hilarious. Just action packed, and then full go. I mean, I hit James Corden right in the chest with a cheeseburger. Like full speed. I mean, the funny thing was the car, the stunt driver was going around the drive-through like super fast, probably 40 miles an hour. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Mm-hmm. And I hit him, and the car's going fast, so I'm throwing it fast. Boom, right in the chest. He said, and I'm probably from here to that camera. I'm probably 8 feet away. I'm just, I was like, I probably threw that too hard. But that was a good time. I think I would say the best thing that we did, though, was going to Brazil. Brazil was pretty amazing. We went to Carnival. That was an amazing experience. I mean, they're literally, it's just the music, the sports, everything there is so heightened. It's amazing there. We had so many fans there, too. It was incredible just to see and just being there. And then I think the part of it, though, that was really special. We went to this community that had nothing, like literally had nothing. And these guys and girls, this one kid in particular, he wanted to start, he loved football, he was a huge fan of mine, and he wanted to start, and he started this almost a year ago. He wanted to start a flag football league, essentially, or to teach football and bring people together and bring the community together. And it's a pretty dangerous area and everything else. And so we went into the area and got there, and it was probably, I would say, about 120 to 150 people, kids. I would say from ages, let's say 12 to 10 or so to about 18. And guys and girls, all dressed, playing football and everything else. And the cool thing was we went there, and Luciano Huck is one of the big-time TV hosts there, and me and Sierra, we went there, and what we did was we brought them a whole thing of shoulder pads, footballs, helmets, cleats, everything. We brought everything to them. They were shocked. Literally tears just started coming down their face. And you got to understand something. One of the reasons why they struggle in terms of playing football in other countries, in particular, like when you go to Brazil, when you go to China, certain countries, Africa, whatever it may be, one of the things that we found out is one, seeing it and learning it, right? That's one thing, right? But now with technology, people are seeing it more. In Brazil, they really understand it. China, they're really growing. Africa, they're learning a little bit more. But the thing about Brazil is they understood the game. The one thing that they said, though, in particular, was that they part of it is the game of football. Especially internationally, it's a very expensive sport, right? When you watch it, right? Because you have a helmet, you have shoulder pads, you have thigh pads, you have pants, you have cleats, you have a football. You go play soccer. It's just, you can play in your tennis shoes and you have a ball. When you play basketball, right? It's a basketball in your tennis shoes. So it takes one item and a goal, right? But you can make a goal, whatever it is. Football, very expensive sport as they see it from the international perspective, right? So the idea of learning the game of football, well, I got to have helmet, I got to have shoulder pads, I got to have thigh pads, I got to have cleats, I got to have knee pads, all that. So we got to change that perspective around the world, and that's one of the things that me and Sierra have been trying to do. Obviously, for me in sports, and then even for her in music and everything else, going to these different places and doing so many special things. It's been an amazing process, and so we've been telling a lot of the kids in terms of football-wise and bringing all this stuff to them here. Well, here's a whole set of football pads and everything else, but listen, you don't really need it. I didn't play tackle football. Well, I did in the backyard, but I didn't play in a league until I was in 7th grade. Mm-hmm. So the idea of playing, flag football, learning, playing two-hand touch, teaching that part of it, because I think that when they see us play, in America, they're seeing college football, they're seeing NFL football, they're seeing tackle with shoulder pads, helmets, and everything else. They think they need that, and that's not the case necessarily to learn the game. And so that's so the kids are having a lot of fun, guys and girls there. That was a really rewarding experience, seeing that and experiencing that.
Hey, last thing before we let you go, just as far as the draft goes, how dialed into these players are you? Like, are there players secretly in your mind going, man, I hope at 21 that guy's still sitting there?
Listen, I can't tell you my thoughts. I can't tell you.
But are you familiar with these people? You're following all these players?
I do my research. I pay attention. I know who's who.
Some players you might be more excited about than others.
I look on the internet. I watch guys on TV during the season. You see a guy make that catch or make that throw or make that tackle or whatever it is. You're like, he's pretty good. So, yeah, you kind of get a sense of that. And what I really love, too, about this time, and I think that this is the reality of this, is that the great players, doesn't matter where they're selected or where they're going to, it doesn't matter. What the analysts say, what everybody else says, we'll see when they get on the football field. Mm-hmm. No matter what anybody says, it don't matter how good they were in college. This game's different. This game's a whole nother level. And so when you see guys come in and you see guys how they approach the game, that's what you get excited about as an NFL player. For me to watch another young guy come in is, what's the professionalism like, in terms of how they work? Because I really firmly believe that increases your chances drastically of how you prepare, how you work, how you look at things, how you study. What are you doing? What are your rehab habits? What are all those things that you do? And I think that's super, super critical. So I think that's going to always be a very important part of it. The key to that though is how guys come in, their attitude, their mentality, and a lot of that does transfer from college and where they come from and everything else. And but yeah, at the end of the day, you can say how good a guy. I mean, how many great first round picks that everybody thought was going to be a great first round pick and not be good, and how many late picks are there that guys become great
or mid round picks? It happens.
So I think that teams do their research and everything else, and then at the end of the day, when the ball's in the air, the guy makes the play or doesn't, and when there's a tackle to be made, the guy makes the tackle or doesn't, and when there's a touchdown to be made, so I think the great players have a great knack of knowing, how to figure that out. And so
myself, I hated the draft because I just figured they were going to replace me with some young punk coming out of college, so you don't have to worry about that.
Well, that's always the mentality. It's always the mentality. You got to always have the mentality that no matter what, you're preparing to be the best in the world. I think that's got to be your focus.
He is Russell Wilson. He is the Seahawks quarterback for at least the next 5 years, which is great news for everybody. Congratulations on that, seriously, man.
Thank you, guys. It's a blessing, for sure.
Glad it's done, and we look forward to seeing you out there. Thanks so much for taking time with us.
Appreciate you guys. Go Hawks.